I've heard people say that land changes a person, but let me tell you, sometimes it just reveals who you already are. The day I met Sharon Vandal, I realized my inheritance was more than just rolling hills in a weathered barn. There she was parked in my driveway like she owned the place, arms crossed, eyes sharp, all set to hand me a ticket for daring to live on my own land. "You can't have that RV parked there," she declared, nose scrunched up like she'd caught a whiff of something rotten. "It violates our HOA aesthetic guidelines." I just leaned against the fender, chewing a toothpick, feeling that old stubborn streak flare up. "Sharon, I'm not even in your HOA." For a second, she was actually speechless. I pointed down the gravel road behind my barn, the same dusty stretch her HOA used to snake into their gated Paradise Larksour Ridge home of vinyl mansions and lawns clipped with military precision. Every mailbox matching every hedge the same height, and God help you if your mulch was a shade off. That access road, it ran smack through the south end of the 200 acres my Uncle Walter left me. Walter never minded them using it, but he also never had Sharon show up swinging bylaws like a weapon. 3 days later, I got a certified letter, 7 days to cease and desist obstructing HOA access, or they'd sue. Attached were blurry photos of my RV, some chicken coop I'd never seen, and a chunk of the HOA rules highlighted like a high school cheat sheet. I just about choked laughing over my coffee. Sent back a letter, one sentence: "Your access road sits on my land. No legal easement. We can negotiate." That's when things turned into a circus. Sharon called an emergency board meeting and invited me. I showed up in jeans and sawdust, feeling out of place among their pastel polos and blazers. Sharon in her power suit tapping her acrylic nails on a stack of papers. "This is a serious matter," she said. "The HOA's used that road over 20 years, prescriptive easement rights." "Not if Walter gave you written permission," I replied, pulling out a notarized letter I'd found in his files. Signed, sealed, dated. The air sucked out of the room, gasps from the board. Sharon turning beet red. "Then we'll fight in court," she snapped. "Sure. But I'll be putting up a gate while you're at it, and unless your people fancy a hike through the woods, that road's closed until we settle." Suddenly, the room exploded in chaos. Someone knocked over a water pitcher. A board member whispered lawyer. I stretched, tossed out a last offer. $2,000 a month, you get access. Otherwise, the road's closed Friday. Sharon's jaw looked ready to crack. By Thursday, they paid up. Next month, Sharon sent Alan, vice president, polite handshake folder in hand, looking for alternatives. We sat on my porch with sweet tea, and he laid it out. The $2,000 wasn't sustainable rumors flying, people wondering why they didn't just build a new road. I told him unless they had millions for bridges and wetland permits, that wasn't happening. He let out a low whistle, started to see what I was up against. Sharon's not going to like this. She doesn't have to. But she should stop pushing her luck. Didn't mention what I'd found in the county records. Not yet. A week later, I saw survey flags, bright orange breadcrumbs along the access road winding into the woods. The next morning, 2 workers showed up with clipboards and a scanner assessing an alternate route. "On whose land?" I asked. "This parcel," they said, hesitating. "Permit," blank faces. Board said, "This is HOA land." "Wrong answer. You've got 10 seconds before I call the sheriff." They packed up quick. That afternoon, I went to the county office and found a forged easement agreement supposedly signed by Uncle Walter 3 years back. Only it wasn't his signature. Walter always made the W dip twice. This one was wrong. I took copies straight to Detective Graves, who smelled coffee and gun oil, and said, "You're saying they forged a legal document to claim your land?" "Exactly." Next day, deputies delivered subpoenas to the HOA clubhouse. Sharon tried to block the door, but Graves was already inside. I watched from across the street, arms folded, while residents gathered confused. "They told us this was a paperwork thing," one woman said, "just a formality." "Not quite," I replied. "Looks like they tried to steal land." She eyed me, then walked away, muttering she hadn't voted for Sharon. By week's end, Graves called again. The HOA's lawyer, Clean, had filed the forged easement. Turns out he'd been sanctioned before for shady tactics. He got charged with felony fraud and obstruction. Texts between Sharon and Clean showed she'd told him to handle it quietly. When detectives pressed, Sharon clammed up. The local paper ran the story on page 1, HOA president under investigation. The next time I went to the feed store, the clerk just grinned and gave me a thumbs up. Heard you're giving those folks a real education. They're learning, I said. Back home, I put up trail cams, not because I was paranoid, but because I didn't trust Sharon to go down without a fight. That very night, my phone buzzed, 2 figures' flashlights skirting the woods by the road. I called Graves. Deputies showed, but the pair had vanished except one tripped a wire and set off a flare bright as 4th of July. Graves checked the footage next morning. One's definitely clean, he said. Already out on bail and now violating a no-contact order. Back to jail he went. Sharon resigned 2 days later. Alan took over, scheduled an actual open forum. He called and asked me to come share my side just to clear the air. The place was packed. Folding chairs, people leaning against the walls. I kept it short. I'm not here to make enemies. But I won't be walked on. My uncle let you use that road for free and you repaid him by forging documents. That's not neighborly. A man raised his hand. We had no idea. Sharon told us you were extorting the HOA. I held up the forged easement. Your dues paid the lawyer who did this. The room buzzed, one woman turning pale. Alan stepped up. We're opening an audit and holding new board elections. Afterwards, folks came to shake my hand. One offered a pie. Another asked if I'd help with a new charter. I just told them I'd think about it. On the way home, I pulled up every last orange survey flag and tossed them in my truck. Let the HOA make their own trail from now on. 2 weeks later, just after dusk, a beat-up sedan with no plates pulled up near the access road. I was oiling my chainsaw chain on the porch. Headlights off. I watched. Driver steps out, pipe in hand, heads for my gate, starts banging on the hinges. I flipped on the floodlight. Evening, I'd called. He froze, then bolted back to the car and tore out gravel flying. I caught the last 3 digits on a Sticker County auction tag. Sent the video to Graves, who called next morning. Stolen car, and he figured someone sent him. You got enemies, he asked. Just one. And she's running out of options. New HOA board was digging through Sharon's mess. Alan met me at a diner. She'd kept 2 sets of books. Fake landscaping invoices, non-existent companies even reimbursed herself for a retreat in Scottsdale. State attorney got called. A formal audit began. HOA under investigation for embezzlement. Need a favor, Alan said. Can we put an emergency access sign on the easement? Ambulance got delayed. GPS won't show the road since you gated it. I agreed on one condition. The sign goes on their side and says private use emergency vehicles only. A couple HOA volunteers came next day. Joe, a retired firefighter, brought coffee and donuts. Didn't vote for Sharon either, he said. Glad someone stood up to her. Folks started dropping by asking real questions about rezoning setback laws, maybe leasing a corner for a community garden. I wasn't interested in being a hero. I just hated bullies. 3 days later, Graves called, caught the guy in the sedan, paid $500 cash to take care of a lock. Didn't even know Sharon. The burner phone pinged near the old HOA clubhouse that night. Guess who's been using it after hours? You got enough to charge her attempted trespass conspiracy, all added to the fraud. Sharon tried to run, got caught with 17 grand in cash and no luggage, denied bail. DA wanted trial within the month. I didn't go to her arraignment. Didn't need to. I met Alan and Joe at the road's edge, watched them put up a new sign, Larksour Ridge, private access maintained with easement agreement. Joe said, this place used to feel like a prison. Now it feels like a neighborhood. Alan invited me to the community potluck. I'll bring the cornbread, I told him. Not a contract, not a deal. Just neighbors, finally. Courthouse was packed for Sharon's sentencing. She shuffled in suit, rumpled wrists cuffed, couldn't meet anyone's eyes. Charges stacked: wire fraud, forgery, conspiracy, misappropriation of funds. The DA pulled a curveball. A whistleblower, former board member, handed over emails. Sharon had skimmed money for nearly 8 years. Worse, she'd paid private investigators to dig into residents' finances. The room went dead silent. Judge leaned forward. Is the defendant prepared to enter a plea? Sharon's lawyer whispered. Sharon said, voice shaky, guilty. It hit like a thunderclap. Sentencing set for a month out. Max penalty 20 years. DA pushed for 12 minimum. No bail, no statements. Outside, Alan paced, rubbing his temple. You hear about the investigators? She pulled credit on 20 residents, tried to get into a widow's bank records, buried the invoices under property evaluation services. I shook my head. You telling the victims already working on it. The new treasurer's compiling a list offering legal help. Good, I said. They deserve a shot at cleaning up. Back home, spring rains had washed out my drainage ditch gravel truck due any minute. County Supervisor Marta Delaney drove up, clipboard in hand. Mind if I walk with you, she asked. Sheriff Graves briefed the board. They're worried about emergency access if you ever pull the easement. Not planning to, I said, but after all this, I'm not giving up leverage for a buyout. She nodded. Then we'll table the motion. I started keeping a folder on Larkspur Ridge, just being prepared, not paranoid. Next week, first town hall, under the new board open to everyone, not just HOA members. Crockpot, string lights, neighbors catching up like folks are meant to. Alan stepped up, promised transparency, accountability, no more closed doors. Called me up. I'm not your enemy. Just don't make me your problem again. Afterward, frank old veteran flagged me down. She fined me $300 for my flagpole. Had all the permits. You filing a claim? Damn right I am. 70 residents filed for reimbursements. Most got approved. Outside mediator handled disputes. I stayed out of it, just watched things shift. Early summer, Alan showed with a proposal, a backup exit route not to bypass my land, but for emergencies. You'll need to trim through heavy timber, I warned. Already budgeted. Grant from the state. All right. But it's for emergencies only, not a shortcut. Deal. Construction began, gravel lane, solar gate, new peace of mind. 2 access points, now twice the leverage. By late summer, the HOA voted to amend bylaws, no fines without third-party review, no closed-door sessions, big spending needed a vote, and no board member served more than 2 terms. Charter passed by 84%. I was sanding a cedar bench when Alan stopped by. Ever think about running for office? I laughed. Not a chance. I like my porch too much. He grinned, drove off. I watched the dust settle, sun-dipping low shadows stretching across the same gravel road that started this whole mess. It was quiet, no more threats, no more tricks, just wind in the trees, the kind of peace you earn, not the kind you inherit. But here's what I learned. People talk about justice like it's a hammer, something you swing when you get wronged, but sometimes it's just holding your ground slow and steady until the bullies finally wear themselves out. Makes you wonder, where's the line between standing up for yourself and becoming the villain in someone else's story? How far would you go to protect what's yours? I'd love to hear how you see it. Drop your own story or tell me, was I right, was I wrong? Where do you draw the line between justice and revenge? Let's talk about it, because out here, neighbor, the only thing stronger than land is what you stand for.